Thank you, Mike. Good evening. It's 5:30 and we'll commence the meeting of the Gates Mills Council. Thank you for all attending today on a cold day here in Cleveland, Ohio. And for those of you that are participating on Zoom. Ed Walsh is going to participate on Zoom today and listen in as a council member. We also have to my left Lisa Mack, who is of counsel at Rutzel and Andrus. She is one of our attorneys that works with Todd Hunt on a number of village matters. Todd had a hearing out of the city today and cleared with me last week that he wouldn't be able to attend today. So thank you, Lisa, for joining us.
Thank you.
With that, may I have the roll call, please?
Eton,
Here.
Broom,
Here.
Deacon,
Here.
Press,
Here.
Steinbrink,
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Do we excuse Mr. Walsh or he'll? Okay, can we have a motion to excuse Mr. Walsh?
moved.
Sandra. And- Okay. Eton,
Sorry?
to excuse Councilman
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Tonight we have a full agenda. We've got particular discussion topics and details on broadband, which is technically providing, what we hope to provide is a high-speed fiber optic buried delivery system of fiber optic throughout the village. We've been working on that for several years and in earnest, several months. And are going to be at a position later to review with you in first reading the documents that go with that, along with a PowerPoint slide that we've prepared to walk through the item. We'll also go with you, we'll review with you the process that we intend to follow to have this discussed over the next 3 months, including a meeting with Chagrin Valley Gig, a meeting with our outside counsel, and a town hall that we would like to schedule sometime between February and March. That's going to hold you here because before that, we're going to go through the more routine things of appointments, resolutions, and reports. And look, if we can go through those relatively quickly, we can get to the couple good meaty issues. With that, we'll go to item number 2, which is the election of council president pro tem for 1-year term. As you know, last year at this time, we discussed and came up with 4 roles for that position. Sandra Turner has had that position and is in that position now. And it's a 1-year appointment, 1-year election by you all as to who you want in that position, should the mayor not be in a position to fulfill his duties. So with that, Sandra, might you have some comments on how that year went for you? And I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, to comment on the first year of this new responsibilities, very few responsibilities and little influence, but actually the role is pretty terrifying. Because you don't have responsibilities. All you're doing is kind of waiting and praying that nothing happens, that the mayor doesn't have to be absent or be incapacitated in any way. So what I've been doing in that role is attending as many meetings as I can, in addition to my own committee meetings, staying close to the staff, supporting the village and all and in that way, reaching out to the mayor, having conversations from time to time, and in that way, and praying. So I've been prepared. But I would say, in all seriousness, that there's opportunity for additional responsibilities for this role, and I guess I'd like us to consider this year, as we're moving through the 2025 goals, that there may be some assignments that could be taken on by this role in conjunction with the support of the mayor and and council. We've had a good year. I think a quiet year. There's not been conflict, and I think the mayor wanted to be clear that there's one mayor of the village. It wasn't a partnership. So again, with that, having had that experience, I feel like we can move ahead and you think about some other things that could be in this role. But I enjoyed serving, and I'm happy to serve again if it's the pleasure of council.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Sandra Turner to serve as President Pro Tem of Council.
Second?
Is there any further discussion?
Should we consider anyone else?
Well, go ahead.
Chip had it, the year before you, right?
Yes.
And you were the
I-
year before Chip.
Yes.
Before that must have been Mary Reynolds, right?
Right, I took over from Mary Reynolds in like 21, middle of 21.
It,
Yeah.
I don't know.
My personal thought on this is that President Pro Tem of Council should be one of the senior members of Council, someone who has served on Council for a extended period of time and is well-known in the village and has a more thorough understanding of some of the things that go on in the village in case the mayor were not to be here. And that's my thoughts on that.
I would just add to that, the ability to understand how City Hall works or Village Hall works and the department heads and the supporting organizations that we have really is important. We can't get all this done by the 10 of us. And we even can't get it done adding the 4 department heads and some citizens. So the ability to reach out to the Friends and to the Improvement Society, Historical Society, Garden Club, Community Club, et cetera, and have a good relationship with them it's maybe not written, but that's important to have the workings of the village continue to work the way they do. I think Sandra has that good working knowledge and respect. Any further comment? Roll call, please.
Don't be shy.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes. Thank you all very much. Look
If you
forward
could
to
join us for
serving.
the,
Thank you.
Sandra,
Oh.
administer the oath of office, please. Again, there's a Bible. Repeat after me, please. I, Sandra Turner,
I, Sandra Turner,
do hereby solemnly swear
give my solemn swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
for the Constitution of the United States of America,
Constitution of the State of Ohio,
Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Charter and ordinances of the Village of Gates Mills,
and the Charter and ordinances of the Village,
and that I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially
and I will honestly, faithfully,
discharge my duties as Council President Pro Tem,
and discharge my duties as Council,
which I have been elected
to which I have been elected,
according to law and the best of my ability.
according to law and the best.
Congratulations. Thank you all. Running down item 4 here, we've got a list of mayoral appointments to the administrative offices. These require council's approval. All of these individuals are currently in these roles. All of them know the village quite well. I think you all know Todd and Mike Cicero have been involved with us for a decade or more. I know the village and the legal system very well and supported us very well. So I'm pleased to make these appointments and would ask for a motion to approve.
Moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Scott.
Second.
Sorry.
Lori, thank you. Roll call?
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes,
Thank you. The next group is mayoral appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. As you saw in the note that I sent about 2 weeks ago, we want to go through and really better articulate the duties of the committees and combine some of those. So this is not the complete listing, but this is ones that we would like to have approved today because the Planning and Zoning and Architectural Board and Historical Review Boards meet every month with important business, and we don't want to wait for a longer review. In addition, Molly Brown has agreed to be on the board of the Volunteer Firefighters Dependent Fund Board. This is, what I learned, a board that exists because we have volunteer firefighters, and should there have been a death or a permanent disability of one of those firefighters in line of duty, the state of Ohio and this fund, and there are other funds available too, help support the dependents of that deceased firefighter. Molly is a lifelong resident. She lives up on County Line Road. She's got a husband and now a young child or two. They're building on County Line, and of all things, back when she was a teenager, she was a firefighter here in Gates Mills. So she is excited to get involved and happy with the phone call. So Tom, there you go. Also, Peter Wiest is been quite involved in all the ecological, environmental items in the village, particularly with regard to the wildlife angle. And we have an opening on the tree canopy committee, and Peter has agreed to be on that committee. The other names are individuals that serve on those committees and are willing to do that again. So as a group, if I could have a motion and a second, and then any conversation. So may I have a motion to approve the item number 5, the different appointments?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, David. Any comments or questions?
One question,
Not today.
one
Michael.
question.
Thank you.
About a year ago, I think, we talked about having a riparian committee and a wildlife committee and an overarching committee and a tree canopy. That was the whole setup, I think. What are your intentions with respect to the overarching committee and the other two?
Well, the tree committee got off to a great start and is making everybody else look like they don't do anything. So thank you, Sandra and David, for getting that up and going. All kidding aside, we need to staff those committees, Michael, and over the next month, we'll do that, okay? Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Item 6, minutes of the council meeting of December 17th. Were there any, Beth,
I did not get
any
any.
comments?
I have just,
I sent you one, sent you an email.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
they're
you get it.
flying fast and furious right there. I have, just one typo on page 7, in item 12, the reappointment of Michael Cicero,
Yes, okay.
Mikhail Cicero,
McHale's not right.
like such a good guy, I thought we'd.
Very good.
Oh, I'm glad you do. I
Um,
fixed that.
Good catch.
I've got one. It's on fire department. Oh, sorry, it's page 5, second paragraph, second line of the second paragraph. If I said old people, I apologize to them all. I should have said senior residents.
Okay,
Now,
I'll
given
change.
that I am one
yeah.
of these people,
So am I.
I hope you'll cut us some slack.
Okay.
I didn't check the video.
I will change it to senior residents.
Thank you.
Okay.
'Cause I don't know what old means. I don't know what senior means either. You know,
Well, my kids call us the olds,
Yeah.
so I'm used to it.
what is old?
Yeah, really.
Yes.
Thank you.
With those changes, I would move approval.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you, David. Roll call, please.
Eton.
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Okay, next item is pay ordinance number 1293 for $943,163. As was mentioned, December is always a heavier expenditure month for us because catching up and finalizing payments on road contracts, et cetera. So it's normally that number is $500,000 to $600,000. Obviously, it's larger for the reason I just mentioned. Are there any questions on the pay ordinances?
Just one. What's BWC?
Bureau of Workers' Comp.
Sorry? Okay, thank you.
And the 950 is on the water, that's just for vacant lots that the village has, right? That $9.50, I think that's just the basic fee.
What are you looking at?
So on page 1, there's 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
5.
that's just, we're on House for the Bureau lot, there's a connection, basic service, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, motion to approve pay ordinance 1293, please.
So moved. Oh, second?
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, David. Roll call, please.
Anton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Deacon.
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. The mayor's report, we have 5 items today. First of all, the 2024 review. We will be finalizing over the next 2 weeks a review of the village for the last year. We've done that every year, I believe. It's usually 4 or 5 pages long. We're going to put a little bit extra effort into it this year and perhaps include some photography of the village, as well as names and places and phone calls and things that people can flip to and quickly find handy. We've looked at some other annual reports of other villages and cities, and they use that annual document as a way to also remind villagers of important dates or phone numbers or who to call if they have issues. So that's underway all internally by Jean and Janet, myself. I do want to have a shout out on 24 to council for the diligence that you've all provided this year. I think we've had 100% attendance at every meeting, maybe but for a vacation or two. And you obviously come prepared to the meetings and prepared to participate. You've obviously read the materials we send in advance, and I thank you for your diligence and volunteer work. 25 priorities. I have sent out to council about 2 weeks ago the priorities that I foresee for the village. I've received most, but not all comments back. That's fine. I'd like to get any back that haven't, and I'd be happy to reach out or have a cup of coffee or a cup of soup or something with you to do that, or just do it through email. It's, we've got a lot that I've got planned for 25, and many of the things that those that have sent them in are consistent with that as well. So perhaps over the next month, maybe in a special meeting or something like that, we have a chance to sit down and go through those priorities as a group and bat them around and understand who would have responsibility, what effort that would take, do we need additional resources, et cetera. A suggestion I did have was that we perhaps take the 3 big strategic priorities that we have, which are safety, environment, and community engagement, and maybe organize those priorities along those 3 themes, just to provide a little order to them so they don't just look like a list of 1,000 to-dos. So we're going to do that all, if that's okay with council, we'll get those out to you. And then perhaps schedule a meeting. We can either do it the next regular meeting, or if there's a desire, perhaps a special meeting over the next 6 to 8 weeks, or even 2 weeks if you want. Funding for the wastewater treatment plant, item number 3. I believe I informed everyone that back in December, we were informed that we were on the preliminary list for the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund. That's since been confirmed. That was a $545,000 loan. I've talked to Chris about that, and by this Friday, we should be able to have a plan to move from the preliminary list to the final list. Any additional paperwork that we need to apply for the loan, and it'd be on the final list. We will qualify for a very low interest rate because this qualified as a regionalization project, and which is one of the priorities of the funding agency. We also learned that we did not receive the grant for $250,000 that was requested from the District 1 Department of Public Works Integrating Committee, if I got that right. We had been one of 57 communities that requested $58 million. Our small $250,000 was something I thought would have just been caught up in the rounding, and perhaps they would just fit us in. But the small communities, we just didn't grade high enough is what it comes down to. We went through the grading system, Chris and I, in some detail. I showed that with Scott Broom this morning, and I showed that, I think, with all of you. You know, they rate you on 12 different criteria. We had an impressive application. It was 60 pages long, but on some of the dimensions, including the amount of users affected by the money, we just don't rank that high. So we were 123 points, I believe. The lowest was 107, and the highest was 160, and the cutoff point was 151. So we are off the mark. It's probably not worth the effort to try to reapply or to fight that. We'll go forward with the loan. I have informed the Hunt Club of that as well, and they want to move forward with us in going forward and using the benefit of the Water Pollution Loan Control Fund proceeds. I talked to Chris the other day, and I laid out a plan by which over the next several weeks, we would put together that additional application to move into the final list. Also a schedule of what it would take to plan, design, construct it, update the costs. Also create a term sheet. Review that with the wastewater committee as well as the user charges that we need to finalize and update for all of our users, not just the Hunt Club, and be in a position a month from now to present most of that information to council after it's been to the wastewater committee for discussion. If all that is, follows that kind of timetable, we should fit very well with the first drawdown on the planning and design money if we were to accept the plan, and if council wants to go forward with this sometime in May, which I believe is when the first distribution is. Questions on that? Or Chris, anything you want to add to that? Thank you.
I remember some discussion about, there was a two-tier system. You put in for a grant, and we didn't actually expect to win the grant, but there was a second round for smaller communities where we thought our chances were better. Is that still the case?
There still is a second round. We won't qualify for that. Of the 8 communities that were smaller municipalities, only 2 were, I think 3 were in the 30 that got the money, and the rest of us all didn't. We aren't high enough on the small municipality list to make it down to Columbus. So we would be in the consolation round if you were playing basketball. David?
On the subsidized loan, you're highly confident that we'll qualify for that?
Yes.
There's no chance that we won't?
I've been informed upon a number of conversations that the degree of certainty needs to be 95+%. And so we
Guess my point is, if we were not successful, but you say you're confident we will be, if we're not, would we contemplate using our own money to subsidize, to invest in this scheme? Because the logic of the scheme is impeccable. So it might still be the best answer for the village overall, were we to invest if we couldn't get the subsidized loan. How do you feel?
I would, we haven't discussed that. I personally would support that. I think that's good use of municipal money. If somebody else came to us and said, we want to add volume, and they're willing to pay us to hook them in to handle their volume, I think we would also be interested in that. There isn't anybody else, but yeah, if we don't get the loan, we could still go forward and do the project.
Thank you.
But for clarity, we still need to approve the project, right?
Correct.
I think all we did before was approve applying for the grant.
That's correct. And we wouldn't ask for that approval until we have more documents to you. Term sheet, pricing, and probably some draft agreements.
So Steve, so without that additional funds, are we lacking in, I can't remember exactly what the total cost of the project was?
The construction, the planning, design, and construction costs are $545,000. We were hoping that the $250,000 grant would reduce the amount to the difference, $295,000, if my math is right, or something close to that. And so without that 250, we'll borrow the whole 545.
Okay.
If we don't get the loan, as David said,
Okay.
then we would come back to council and say, do you want to do this out of our own?
So the
wallet.
grant was reducing the loan.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we've asked the wastewater committee to schedule a meeting next week so they can get themselves back up to speed, right, Scott?
Yeah, the week after.
A week after?
Chris comes up with a plan, so.
Okay.
27.
If, when it comes back for approval, could you be prepared to answer the question of, if we go ahead with the project and it's implemented successfully, what do we do then if somebody along the corridor between the Hunt Club and the sewage plant puts their hand up and says they want to join? Because that one's never been 100% clear to me.
Wastewater treatment plant. That's a force main, so it's a pressure line, so people would not be able to connect to that. The reason the Hunt Club project works is it will be its own pump station that will be pumping into our pump station that's behind the village hall. So it pumps all the way up to the wastewater treatment plant, so there's no real ability for anybody to tie in anything else unless they were to run an extensive amount of gravity sanitary sewer that would tie into one of the pump stations.
I understand that, but we do have, for example, GMES, where we've got, what, 100 students plus faculty. It's a fair amount of material to be handling with a septic system if there's an alternative of city sewer. No, the one right,
The elementary school.
Elementary school.
the elementary school.
That would be a discussion based on, they would need to run line all the way back behind.
I'd have a hard time saying no to them, having said yes to the Hunt Club.
One quick question, or answer. When the plant was designed, the Hunt Club had been anticipated in the design time. Nothing else like the school or housing was in the equation to tie in there. But from the beginning, there had always been a suspicion that the Hunt Club went. But it's a bit different than the school coming to us and saying, well, now we want it.
There's a specific service area that was approved, is what's called the 109 plan for the EPA, when the wastewater treatment plant was approved. So there's a designated amount of land area that has been approved by the EPA, serviced by that wastewater treatment. If anybody outside that area of land would want to tie in, it would require a much different set of exercises with the EPA, trying to increase the land area that's available, and then we could also run into potential capacity problems at the wastewater treatment plant. So the connection could involve the cost of connecting plus the cost of upgrading the plant. So it's kind of like pushing on a water balloon.
One point, if I may. What David just said would suggest that the Hunt Club knew all along that we were sizing this facility to include them. And they didn't pay anything for it up front. So they made their wishes known. This is, I'm imagining a narrative. They made their wishes known. Yeah, if you build that thing big, we'll be in there at some point. But the village paid for it all. I think there's a quid pro quo in here somewhere that we need to acknowledge as we price whatever the arrangement is going to be between the village and the Hunt Club in the event we go. Sorry.
Well, I don't know what the Hunt Club knew or didn't know 15 or 20 years ago.
But again, I mean, clearly there's some smoke there.
Well, there could be some smoke. We'd have to look into that. We haven't done that. I don't, there was also, I think, an expectation, because this was pre-SARAS, that we would rebuild something in downtown Gates Mills and that would need septic system. So there was anticipation there would be additional, it had more capacity than current demand, with the anticipation that something would fill some of that. Now, whether that was the club or SARAS or some of the retail building, I don't know. That's 15 or 20 years. If we need to, we can go and look through some of those records, but I don't want to assume that people knew things and took advantage of it. I think at this point, we have a nice opportunity to add volume to our system, which increases the efficiency and reduces the ultimate cost, and keep the water clean, so.
Going back to Michael's question though, Chris, is the school within that designated area? Huh, that's interesting.
Oh,
'cause
how
it's
much-
Right down the road there.
Downtown area, small,
Yeah.
across the street, post office,
Mhm.
everything in this area, in the tavern, Hunt Club area, everything, and rather compact downtown area, than nothing here.
What's our confidence, Chris, that the septic system that the school has is adequate to handle the load it's got? Well, that could set hairs running. I'm not sure I want to do that. But
Frankly, we've got a pretty full plate, so rather than looking for more sewage, let's just go with the flow we got, okay? Thank you all. Safety fund, some good news on this. I think you all know we have created a safety fund years ago to be able to deposit contributions coming from certain villagers who over time want to do something special for the village. We were fortunate to secure a $29,000, $200 gift in December for radios that would increase the interoperability between police, fire, and service department. Those radios have been ordered last December. It takes about 3 months to get them from Motorola, so we'd expect that to be plugged in sometime March or April. We also received a $10,000 gift from another resident for an additional flock camera. You'll recall that in some of our prior discussions and memos and minutes, there was a desire for a fifth flock camera, if that would be of interest. This is one that we have designated for Brigham Road. And we also understand that either Chesterland or Chester is going to have flock cameras somewhere within their municipality as well this coming year. Nonetheless, this one will be, Chief can talk about it when he has his report, has been, I think, ordered and will be up and running sometime this spring. That'll be our fifth camera, and we appreciate that contribution of $10,000. And lastly, the Gates Mills Land Conservancy, they have provided their annual report for '24 and their financial statements for '23. Those have been given to council. I have talked to both the outgoing and the incoming presidents. We both agreed, and I solicited most of you. And the thought was that we would invite them to probably the February meeting. I believe both at, I shouldn't say that. I believe they both can be at the February meeting. If not, we'll have them here at the March meeting, but they have fulfilled their requirement to provide an annual report and a financial statement to the village. I would say if you have questions to that, and if you want to shoot them off to Janet and me, we can assemble them and get them off to the Land Conservancy ahead of time. If you want to bring your questions when they're here, that's fine too. Those are all the reports that I had. Any questions on that?
Question, Mr. Mayor. I hate to be a broken record, but the charter amendment survey, we've been talking about it for quite some time now. It's always the sort of thing that you can kick down the road a little bit, but if we decide to go ahead with a charter amendment in November sounds like a long way off, but we might want to do some cleanup before, if we do have a charter amendment, some cleanup of the current zoning code, and that's going to take some time. So I think we can't afford to let grass grow under our feet on this charter amendment survey.
Okay, the charter amendment survey, I drafted one up and sent it off to Michael just this afternoon. So there's, it simplifies the 3 items down to a couple simple paragraphs. So he'll take a look at that, get it back to me. I'll share it with Lisa and Todd. We can document it, make sure it has the right kind of question in there. This is a survey that would go out to all residents, both villagers that live here and those that are well, that live here, I guess. It's all residents. And ask the question, help us guide whether we need to do the research, whether we want to have a town hall, or whether the current system is adequate in their view.
Mayor, can the Charter Review Committee also see the survey? Because you may recall, we did a survey of prior officials in the village, council members as well. So we did do some surveying already.
I can send this off to the members of the prior committee. I'm not sure, Roy, if we want the same committee or a new committee. Sometimes a fresh set of eyes and
Actually, on that survey, we went to a handful of people, all of whom had served in council or the administration,
Right.
or were
Some-
generally regarded as city fathers. We didn't go to the residents at large.
No, that's right, but it's.
Nor did we pose the question in that survey about a zoning charter amendment.
No, I think that came up after, but I still think it's relevant. It was good.
you want me to suggest, you suggest that I send the survey draft to that committee for their comment?
Yeah, I would, because they did the work before.
Okay.
And,
We're happy to get comments from different sources.
yeah.
But that's fine. So, but Michael and I will put it together, finalize it the next day or two, send it off to Lisa and Todd. She can alert Todd and look to get comments back early next week. Okay, then we'll get it out to all council. Okay, thank you. Next item, financial report. You have a two-page narrative that's been provided in advance and it's been posted on the website. We ended the year in a nice position. At the December minutes, I had suggested that with the benefit of some additional unanticipated municipal income taxes, we would end up about $200,000, in my mind, to the good. Janet had a more precise number, and she won the contest because we ended up at a $298,000 surplus. As always, the person with the sharper pencil usually is going to win that contest. But all kidding aside, we were pleased to end up that way. We ended the year with $7,800,000 of revenue and $7,500,000 of expenditures. That's a $300,000 surplus. We had not anticipated that level. A few things happened. Number one, we received more municipal income tax revenue than we had planned and that Rita had told us we could expect. That is always, on a cash basis, a little bit of an unknown. You get the proceeds when the tax collecting agency gets the remittances from the taxpayers. And none of those are items that we necessarily control. We were also able to handle with some of that overage some unexpected expenses. We had about $100,000 of expenses through the August 6th tornadic storm that have not been reimbursed and probably won't be reimbursed by any government agency. So those were on our account. And the old mill emergency repairs turned out to be $323,000, which is a sizable unanticipated expenditure. We should get back $120,000 sometime this summer from the county and the city water, but we had to put that money up ourselves. So despite those two additional those two additional expenditures, the extra revenue still produced for us a $300,000 surplus. Well, thank you from the audience. You know, I wish we could plan that closely. I was thinking break even plus a bit, and again, it came in plus. So we're fortunate to be in that spot. People sometimes say, you know, do you need all that money? What do you need all that money for? Or whatever. It's things that we really can't anticipate. It's a $300,000, water drainage paving problem on Old Mill that most municipalities wouldn't have that kind of money available. And maybe you'd have to push that project off or put up barricades or come back to it next year. So, it does give us the flexibility to do some things that have to be done when they need to be done, as opposed to maybe pushing them off 6 months to a year. That money is in the treasury and we can talk at some time about what we do with it, but at this point, it just adds to our general fund. Any comments on the financial status?
Just an observation. I think this is the first time since I've been on council that we finished the year or a month even with less than $10 million in the bank.
Is that good or bad?
I prefer to have more.
Okay.
I have a question too. I don't know whether to be disappointed or not. I would have expected the traffic cam revs to be running ahead of budget because of the change we made in the threshold a few months ago. We lowered the threshold and it's not showing up in the revenue.
So, fair point. As you know, the budget was put together in December of '23 for what '24 would bring in. At that time, we had a total of 3 months of actual activity of the cameras because September was the phase-in month and October, November, December were really our only known months. So we kept it at a relatively constant number just because we didn't have any further data. I would say two things have come to light, Michael. Number one is during August, the cameras were down for probably, I think, 14 days during the storm. And that means that those tickets that would have been issued in August or September never existed to that level. And the receipts that would then come in September and October, November didn't come in. So we somewhat knew as a result of the storm that we would be down in the fourth quarter in our revenue. The other piece is our December receipts are down. The week of December 23rd, the week between Christmas and New Year's, we just didn't have the staff on hand during the holiday period to write those tickets and authorize those tickets. And Chief can talk about that and staffing. So December's ticket count was down.
Time will tell then.
Time will tell.
Well, and I think it's working that people have slowed down.
People are working and slowed down. The statistics that are in the back of the chief's report, I think, of all the passes that came through Mayfield Road last year, 1%, less than 1% required tickets. And the average speed is 45 and the highest speed was 108 miles an hour. So in that 1% or 2% that do trip over, you know, there are dangerous drivers out there.
I think looking at the chief's data, the volume of traffic on Mayfield Road seems to be declining. So even if you change the threshold at which you issue citations, you may still issue fewer citations. The arithmetic isn't working in
Right.
my head just yet.
Yeah.
It takes longer to find out.
Any other questions? Okay, that'll conclude the financial report. Again, if you have questions, send them to Janet or myself. Thank you again, Janet, for preparing it and for a good financial year.
Mhm.
And you win the candy bar, bet. Okay. Clerk's report.
Nothing to
Beth,
report.
nothing to report. Committee reports, David or Sandra, anything on the tree canopy committee?
Very briefly, we're glad that Peter Wiest is joining our committee. That will be great. The invasives pilot program will kick off at the end of this month, beginning of next, around about February the 1st. And we'll keep you apprised as that moves along.
We are having signs put up at the locations of the pilot program so that people know it's a controlled invasives program. It's not clear cutting trees or preparing for development or anything else. There'll be 2x3 signs so they stay within the code, and they'll in essence say species control project in progress or something like that. Call Village Hall for more information. And so we're communicating that. We'll also have a page in the pink sheet, and I'll have a paragraph in the mayor's letter so that we're informing as many villagers as we can in different ways about this. It will, in those locations, come the spring, it won't look so green as it has in the past. But a lot of that green were invasives that weren't helpful to us. So we're going to get rid of them. Okay, let's do departmental reports. Who's up? Looks like Chief Monicello.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Everybody should have received a copy of my report. Be happy to answer any questions you may have. I just, one point of clarification, Mayor alluded to the flock cameras, just a little bit of a update clarification on that. This would actually be our 6th camera. We have currently we have 5. We have east-west on the boulevard, one on Old Mill near Berkshire, River and Rogers, and one on the Somme Circle. This one is slated to go in the area, the 7700 block of Brigham Road. So it has been ordered, and I would imagine sometime in the spring we'll see that. So so we'll have 6, total 6. And then the other thing, just you know, highlight again to everybody here, it was a $10,000 donation. It was actually 20. He gave us 10. The residents gave us for these cameras 10 in August, and he says, you know, we'll make it happen after the first of the year. And so it was fully intended to be 20,000, and all the half came in. So wanted to mention that. And once again, just for clarification, these are the flock cameras, which is more the investigatory tool. These are not the speed cameras. It's a difference. So just so everybody's aware of that.
We've had notifications of 2 or 3 frauds perpetrated upon our residents over the last 6 months. There's one that's listed here. There were 2 previously that probably weren't listed. Sizable amounts of money. And the stories are just sad stories. You know, people that are brought into someone else's confidence, and over time, small requests become bigger requests, and so on and so forth. So Chief's going to arrange for the FBI individuals who came last year to come back this spring. We'll do it in the hall here. Last year we had a standing room only group. Things to do, things not to do, the latest trends, the latest scams, and try to inform our residents that these things are out there.
Yes, and just one other thing, if I could add, I heard some comments regarding the passes of the vehicles. Jury's still out on that one. Gasso sent a technician out a week ago, the 14th, and what they claim regarding passes is the eastbound camera had to be realigned, and it wasn't catching. All the violations were being recorded, but they think it wasn't capturing every single pass that went through. So, we'll see what things look like in the upcoming months.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item number 3, is that going to be sent out over YouTube?
I think we will. I was gonna actually talk to Mike about that. But we're putting that in the pink sheet. We have it posted around downtown Village area, post office, library, odds and ends. We'll put a notification out on that as well. And we want to hit it right before tax season.
Because the old people would like to see them. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Biggert?
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. You should have received a brief report, monthly report for the service department. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anticipating anything different in the next 2 days with the very, very cold weather?
No, that's, hopefully, sounds like tomorrow's gonna be the colder of the 2 days and then it starts climbing. So hopefully we'll get through this relatively easy. Just as a side note, I wanted to let you know that, Nick Nemastil did start in January as the new employee on the service department. As expected, he's already doing a wonderful job, kind of taken to it like a duck to water. Has figured out, the majority of the equipment we expect him to be familiar with. He's already out plowing the streets and very pleased and very happy, as I figured he would do. So he's going to be a great asset to the village.
Are we allowed to talk about 640 or is that sub judice? Is that how you say it? Sub judice? Are we allowed to talk about it?
Hold on us. Off limits?
Yes, off limits.
Depends on what the question is.
Well, a couple of observations. First
Yeah.
one is I took a look at the house the other day. It looks great with the windows and the roof and all that. But there's still a massive hole down near the foundation, which to me looks dangerous. If a child walked in there, they get badly hurt. Is there a plan to fill that in, or maybe it's already been done? I saw this 3 or 4 days ago.
No, yeah, you noticed that today. That's been there for a while. I don't know. I'd have to check on that. I certainly understand your concern, and certainly is one of mine. So what I'll probably do is just talk to either Nick or the builder and see if there's something, whether it's fill it in. I think the intent eventually is to remove that foundation because it's really old stone. It's really not anything that would pass code. So I'll talk to Nick and or Mark, and whether it's a fence to secure it or fill it in. I think you're absolutely right, though.
David and I had a little correspondence today. I was just curious. We're going to have a continuation of the hearing at the February council meeting, I think, or prior to it. I was wondering if there are any signs, whether they're getting a plan together and whether they're scheduling with the Historic Review Committee or the Architectural Review Board, or is there sort of radio silence?
Well, what I'll do is probably go through what you and I chatted back and forth about. So I talked to Mark, I think it was on Thursday. Mark's the builder that supposedly will be finishing the house. He had talked to the previous architect, or the original architect, who is now retired, and he's not interested in doing any of the necessary changes on the drawings. So Mark has contacted an architect he's used in the past and is familiar with, and is trying to get him on board and up to speed. He had a couple of questions, which I addressed to Mark, and I told him if he's got anything else, just have him call me. I'll help, work it through. And then I suggested once he comes on board, that the architect, myself, and Mark can meet out on the site, because I guess there's some questions about how to do some details or what it should look like. So that's where they're at. And fortunately, the previous architect did say he would be happy to pass on the digital form of the drawing, so they're not starting from scratch. So that should, once the architect's on board, I can't imagine it taking more than a half a day or day to draw what's needed, that the historic board has asked for. And then, once they can get me the drawings, we'll see how it falls into the normal schedule, or as we said in the hearings, we can try and schedule special meetings, so. To your point, I think we'd like to have those approvals before we go to the February council meeting to hit, for another hearing. So ideally, that's the perfect world, so. We'll see what we can do to make that happen.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, Dave.
Sure.
Tom?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You should have gotten a copy of my written report. At the very bottom of it, gives the 2024 year-end totals. And you might pick out of that data, we had 293 calls for the fire department. And even if you take out the 32 calls that we had for the storm duty in August, it still would have been a record amount of calls. Mayfield Village EMS, we had 201 squad calls plus 10 canceled and or extra releases. We were actually billed for one more additional squad call by Mayfield Heights as a backup squad for a call that occurred in July. So those were the year-end totals. I would like to clarify, there were some questions about our fire hydrant program, and I just wanted to clarify that there are about 30 fire hydrants out of service for various reasons. There were 52 replaced and or major repairs done in the last 18 months. And this includes, we kept adding to the list over the summer. So they would come out and fix some of those hydrants also instead of just replacing them. So usually what happens when we turn in a hydrant list to Cleveland Water, it's not that they send one person out to fix one hydrant. They wait till they have a group and then they come out, and usually you'll see like a dozen hydrants that have been repaired or replaced. So they've also had some major water line breaks, and the last one was just recently on West Hill Drive. So they've been keeping up with those. The last item I have to update everybody on one of the reports, I believe it was the October report, we said that we were going to buy some hot stick units to advise the first responders of an electrical hazard. Unfortunately, we placed the order. We waited for quite a long period of time, and we believe the company went out of business. We are checking with other suppliers to see if there's any left in stock, because the other units that we've tried haven't been as reliable as we'd like them to be. So we also have a information request into the Centurior Energy to find those also. So that concludes my report if anybody has any questions.
Can you talk just briefly on the cadet program and the 3 young men that we have going into training?
Yes, we've put on 3 cadets. All 3 are over the age of 18, so they will be attending fire school. We had to fit them into the schedule at either the local academy here, or we do have a few that are going to the Ohio Fire Academy in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. All 3 are going to do the entire fire class, and all 3 are going to do the EMT class. So by the time they're done, probably in July or August, they'll be fully functional and on our department, sworn in fully to our department. We did apply and did get some matching grant funds, thankfully, through the state fire marshal. And we're also working with Jobs and Family Services here in Cuyahoga County to get some matching grant for the EMS portion. So we are moving ahead and trying to add some more personnel to the department.
Great. That's great. Go back for a minute to these hot sticks you were talking about.
Yes.
And you said you put in an order. Did we pay for these and we didn't
Well,
didn't get them?
we ordered them on a credit card, and after about 6 weeks, we still hadn't received the order, and we had negative contact with the company. So when we contacted through the credit card company, they said that their account had been dropped. They're a company out of North Carolina, and we think they may have been in the impacted area. So we don't know if, they'll pick up production again, or the company's totally gone, or, whatever. So we're trying to find another brand or another make that fulfills the needs that we have.
Okay. Did we actually pay or?
We
credit
got
card
we
never
got the
went
money
through?
back. Chase was able to stop the payment.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, the cadet program is impressive. We'll have 3 cadets that'll lower the average age of our fire department, because all these folks are 18 to 20 years old, and that'll be nice. But, we've agreed as a village to pay for their outfitting. And fire uniforms are not cheap, and also pay for their education and their training. And we think this is a program that maybe not a lot of other departments will do or can do, and one that will allow us to have more hands on deck here. Lori, question?
Yeah, just one question. How many fire hydrants do we have in the village, actually, Chief? So 32 is a pretty small percentage. 32 is pretty small, it's not working.
Greg, question?
Yeah, just a quick question. The 2 gas leaks on Cedars, that's not a result of the boring work that's being done by Hunting Valley for the broadband? There's like 2 different dates on Cedar?
They were,
Okay,
but it was rectified by the gas company.
okay. Just curious, thanks.
Okay, thank you for those reports.
Just to reiterate, so of the 700 hydrants, you guys were able to test 600, some of them. You were able to test 600 last year, right? I think that was the number from last year.
All 600, and, some of them are private hydrants, right? About 700 hydrants, 690.
93, right?
93.
I just think everyone out there listening or watching should know, the fire department's always doing something, and that takes a lot of time. Just
Yep.
do the math. And the fire hydrants need to be checked. They don't always work, so
We learned about that in California, right?
hard lesson.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, let's go to item number 15. This is a motion to authorize the bidding the 25 road maintenance program. Chris, you want to highlight the program for us? Or Dave, whoever has the data?
At this point in time, we're requesting authorization to bid the 2025 road program. As we've done in years past, we've got more work. We have more work than the budget provides for at this point in time, in the anticipation if the numbers come in low or receipts are higher for the year, that we may opt to add an additional road. What we have at this point in time, bear with me for 1 second. We have programmed in $200,000 of county road maintenance. We've applied for 309,000, of which about 139,000 would be reimbursed by the county under the county road maintenance program. Anticipating we're going to get about $200,000 of that work awarded by the county, of which about $100,000 would be reimbursed. We also have our local road maintenance programmed in at about $200,000. That will vary up and down based on the budget that we have available and how the numbers come in. And then we also intend on doing Hill Creek and Andrews, which were 2 roads that were delayed last year because of county line and the expense of county line. And then the additional road we've selected for this year is Colvin, which runs right next to the elementary school. That road's in terrible shape, and we're proposing to remove it and replace it with full-depth concrete, which will be much more durable for the buses coming up and down the hill. So all in, it's about $1 million worth of work. And then once the bids are received, we would come back and look for authorization up to the budget amount that is in the 2025 budget.
Chris, will Colvin Road be widened?
It may be, if we do it, that would be the road that would be added later in the year. Summertime would be the time to do it when the school's out of session, but we can maybe squeeze about a half a foot extra out on each side. That's about it.
So,
Chris, of the $1 million roughly, how much is Andrews and Hill Creek? I remember a number like 600,000.
That's about right. I think Hill Creek's about 425 and Andrews is about 125.
Okay. And that's expense we moved into this year in order to do County Line last year within the budget.
Correct.
Right, thank you.
and we've done most of the engineering already. So that should be good. And we are able, if we get the motion today, to go out for those bids so that we can be out there in the spring and get these, get lined up quickly to do those roads. You'll recall, we used to kind of bid the stuff in July, and then in November, they'd be doing road work. When the snow was coming, we'd say, why can't we move this up 6 months? And so Chris and Dave have done a great job moving the whole thing up about a half a year. So we would like the motion today to authorize the bid program. We're not spending any money at this point, but we can get the requests out there.
So moved.
Thank you, Michael.
Second.
Thank you, David. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item number 16 is Resolution 2025-1, directing and authorizing the transfer of certain sums from the general fund to the capital improvement fund, the mayor's fund, the water fund, wastewater fund, and the police fund. So we set budgets for each of those. This resolution here allows us to physically move the money from the general fund into those funds so that as it's spent over the year, we would be able to use it. One thing we've been trying to do, this is between Janet, myself, and Todd, is to have less, we'll call it noisy work in front of council with emergency motions if we don't need them, 2 or 3 readings, partial appropriation of this, a partial appropriation of that, and so on. So we thought one way to be straightforward is to transfer the amounts that were in the budgets that have been approved, and that's what 25-1 does. Any questions on that? Okay. I need a motion to approve resolution 2025-1.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, like I said, we're gonna get better at this. So I need,
So I'll move that we suspend the rules for resolution 2025-1.
Second.
thank you, Craig. Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
We
Okay.
approve.
Thank you, Scott. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Sandra. Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
So as a practice of improvement, we're gonna do this. Anytime we have something that needs a suspension going forward, we're gonna put a little asterisk in front of the number. That'll be my prompt to know that I should ask for that, okay? Yes. Maybe. All right, gotta check with the boss. Maybe not.
1 point.
Okay, we'll find a way.
Uh,
David,
I've been to a number of Mayfield City School Board meetings, and they dispose of most of their agenda with what they call a consent agenda, where there is no discussion at all. And they assume that everybody's read it. And do you agree with this consent agenda? And the answer is always, yes, of course we do. get out of here early. And there's nothing much left for them to talk about. So the consent agenda is a device I haven't seen exercised here, and it might be a possibility, I don't know, just to simplify things. Save time too.
Well, that's something that we can all talk about. I think a lot of the stuff that we do here is pretty procedural, so there may be a handful we could group them that way.
Yeah, particularly for, I mean, Janet handed out this housekeeping annual legislation agenda where by month, and I hate to use the term rubber stamp, but this has already been approved by finance and budget, and it's basically just part of the annual events, things that we would do during the course of business. So I'd be in favor of doing something like that.
Okay, thank you. Did we get that done, Beth? Are we done with
We're done with,
2025-01?
yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So item number 17, Resolution 2025-2. This is a resolution authorizing a change order number 1 to the contract with Maroney and Sons for the Riverview Damage Drainage Project for additional labor and materials and declaring an emergency. So this one and the one that follows it, we had some work done at Riverview. We had a budget of $42,000. As we got into it, it was much more than that. There's 2 change orders, number 2025-2 and then 2025-3. Those have added $33,000 to the project. The project's now done. 42 plus 33 is 75. So we have to pay the additional change orders this year. The 42,000 was paid last year. Chris, you want to comment at all? Or does anybody have comments to Chris on what the additional change orders were for?
The first change order relates to removal of additional trees. This was one of those areas at the end of Riverview where there was a private storm sewer that went through the parcel that picked up public drainage. So the project was to remove that private sewer, replace it with a public sewer that would be within an easement. And it was running through an area that we needed to relocate the sewer to get it out from underneath the proposed house footprint that the Grozeks are going to be building on the property. When we got back in there, it was very heavily overgrown. There was a lot of ground cover that needed to come out. And then once the contractor got in there to look at where the sewer was going to be built in order to try to save as many trees as possible, we needed to do a little bit of reconfiguration of the sewer. That resulted in removing a number of dead trees in order to allow access through an area where we would not be impacting live trees. And then we also, in working with the Grozeks, we added some additional rock at the outlet to make it more of a aesthetically pleasing outfall adjacent to the river. So there's some large slab rocks there. That's the first change order. The second one relates primarily to arborist services. We had originally proposed to build the project and then potentially purchase the easement from the Grozeks. They asked if we could provide some services in kind in lieu of payment, and they would donate the easement. So they identified an arborist, and we worked with them in order to have them working alongside the contractor to try to best protect the trees adjacent to the storm sewer trench that was going through the property. Assessing them, they did very high-tech air lance root cutting in advance of the trench being excavated. So that $20,000 second change order are services in lieu of having to purchase an easement.
Okay, any questions to Chris on that? Yeah, Dave.
Just wanted to thank the Grozaks publicly for that. I think we've been working on this, trying to get this done 4 or 5 years. And so it was very important that the Grozaks cooperated with us, and I think it was a really good partnership. I think we wanted to make sure, because they're intending to build a new house on the property, that we didn't do something to get in their way, and we weren't getting in their way, and they're not getting in ours. So I just want to thank the Grozeks for that, because it would have made it a lot harder to get this project done and certainly more expensive. So, yes.
Thank you.
And we all know Sue Grozek is the president of the Mayfield City School Board.
Okay, I need a motion to suspend the rules, please, for Resolution 2025-2.
On
So
the matter of efficiency, I would move that we suspend the rules for both 2025-2 and 2025-3. Take two first.
Okay. It's okay. Thank you for the motion. Have a second. Thank you, Craig. Roll call.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
yes,
Turner.
Yes,
I move approval of 2025-2.
second,
Thank you, Craig. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
yes,
Turner.
yes,
I move approval of 2025-3.
second,
Thank you, Craig. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
yes,
Turner.
yes,
Thank you all. Item 25-4 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a purchase agreement with Montrose Ford for a 2025 Ford Lightning F-150 battery electric special vehicle for use by the police department. Chief, I'm not sure everybody understands what you're doing here, so maybe you want to talk about the trade-in of the car and the purchase of the truck.
Thank you. The mayor just said it right there. We're going to go ahead and trade the Tesla. It's been a good vehicle for us. Expensive to fix when it needs to be fixed. But keep in mind, it's not a police car, it's a conversion. And so we can't always use as much as we would like. We like have the electric footprint down here. We have the infrastructure in place already. And so we were looking at these Ford Lightnings, and they've come down in price about $12,000 from its peak. Same price as Ford Explorer. Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department has one. You're starting to see these, they have the Lightning, they have the electric vehicle downtown. But you're starting to see a lot of these utility vehicles, like City of Willoughby, Hunting Valley's got a couple, they start to pop up all over the place. And, quite a few of the officers express interest. They feel that it's more comfortable, obviously, than the Tesla. We'll get a pretty high trade-in value for the car. So there's a lot of utility benefits. We think it'll be easier to work in accidents and things like that. There'll be times, not all the time, but, we need a couple signs. It's in the middle of the night and things like that. We could, put it in the back. We don't have to be bothering the service department unless we need to, but, pricing wise, it's the same as a regular Ford Explorer that we have right now. And, once again, we'll move the charging station from the Sally Port onto the outside wall. So we don't have to keep it inside anymore. I think the fire department might be happy about that. Mr. Press?
Would it be less expensive, Chief, to replace it with a gasoline-powered vehicle?
You know what? Honestly, the Explorers cost the same amount of money. Exact same amount of money right now, for about $47,000.
Does it make sense to have all gasoline-powered vehicles in the fleet except one electric-powered?
That's what we have now.
I know,
Yes.
but I'm trying to figure out whether that makes sense.
I think we're just going to keep evaluating, see how this works. Like the Tesla, it's not really made to be a police car, so it's kind of more of,
Yeah, I remember that. That was a
Yeah,
donation
it
from a wealthy
So-
resident.
right. Well, we expect the vehicle to pick up to do exactly what the other cars do. We're going to equip it the exact same way. It'll be used very similar to the other cars. So, I think we'll get some good use out of it. I really do.
Let me see if I could ask it a different way. Do we expect the electric the truck to cost any more than to maintain it, service it, get the charger, all the things that are necessary for an electric vehicle?
I don't think so. And plus, it'll be brand new, so it'll be under warranty.
So does that mean the rest of our fleet will become electric over?
No, I
time
don't
as
think
they
so.
roll off?
I mean, I don't think we're in a position to say that right now. I think as with anything, you just kind of evaluate it. There's not a lot of the F-150 Lightnings, on departments right now, so we don't know, what the track record is going to look like down the road. I think you always want to look at that. But you're starting to see more and more pop up, like Chevy Blazer's coming out with one, an electric vehicle, a police car. So you're starting to see them more and more, but, there's not a lot out there just yet.
And
If
I,
I'd-
thi-
if
I
I'd
think the
given
key,
the Tesla in the first place, I would probably be very happy you were replacing it with an electric truck. Because I gave
Yeah.
it to you because I wanted you to be
Right.
using electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't care, I don't know.
Well, actually, quite honestly, I got the donor involved in this and he's actually the one, because I was a little, I don't want to say concerned's not the right word, but it was a little, sensitive and everything. He said, no, I'm all in favor of it.
Good.
He said, so he actually went down to the sheriff's department with me, got involved in the process and
Mm.
he's,
Yeah, that's great.
know,
And you'll
likes
see,
the idea.
I mean, gasoline versus the Charger alone, I think is going to be quite a savings. And for us, the electricity use is really de minimis for charging the car, and I always charge it at home.
I think the key difference here is this is an F-150 and it's got a lot more utility. I mean, if anyone's ever owned a pickup truck, I know I miss ours dearly because it was useful. So I think that's the key thing here is it's F-150 and Chief said a lot of times they need to bother the service department. They need to go throw up signs or things and they, police department will be able to handle that, so.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Sandra. Second.
Second,
Thank you, David. Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Can I have a resolution to approve resolution 2025-4?
So moved.
Thank you, Lori.
Second.
Thank you, Scott. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Thank you all for those items. Next item is Resolution 2025-5. This is a first reading. Ask Councilmember Deacon to walk us through this, please.
Sure. So I think you all have a copy of the slides and Mike is kindly going to put them up for us. And that way anyone online can see them as well. So the purpose of the slides is just to kind of do a refresh on the process, where we've been, the selection, the advantages of Ohio Gig, as well as go through the key provisions in the agreement. The agreement is in draft form right now. And I thought we had a copy attached, but I guess not. Where'd the mayor go? Thought we had a copy attached, Steve, but so it's in draft form. We can certainly get you all a copy if you would like to look at it. There's still a few provisions that need a little tweaking. We definitely need to go to 3 readings on this, and anyone who has, questions, comments as we go through. It's a little bit of a complex agreement. So, we'll take all the time that's needed to review it and make sure everyone understands all the provisions. So just a little bit of where we've been. A committee was formed in about 2021. There was a resident survey conducted. That committee researched, studied options, and then after review determined that the environment was complex enough that we should engage a consultant. So that's when we did an RFP for the consultant. This council approved hiring of Reed Consulting. Reed Consulting's report was that it is economically feasible and practical for Gates Mills. However, because of our lower home density and topography, we might find that a provider would require investment by Gates Mills. So at that point, a committee was appointed. I've got the committee is listed at the back of the slides. An RFP was done for broadband to the home. We had 5 indications of interest, 3 respondents. 1 was not responsive. Unfortunately, it was a letter from Spectrum. And then AT&T and Ohio Gig went to the final round. So next slide, Mike. So just also a refresh on the review of the two finalists, both similar electronic architecture and services. The pros that we went through, AT&T is a large established provider, financial strength, had infrastructure already in place. The cons were that it was an aerial build. And we know from the comprehensive plan that that's not preferred by our residents. We're very engaged in our tree canopy. And also we have a lot of storms that affect service. They also wanted a $3 million contribution by Gates Mills. Again, that's because of the ROI on this project and our size and density and market rates. The other provider was Ohio Gig, who, you know, we have approved. Over 90% underground build, locally owned, locally operated, guaranteed rates, no charge for drop to the home for residents who sign up during the initial period. Significantly less outlay for Gates Mills. Essentially, we need to prepay for services to Gates Mills buildings. And they're already implementing Hunting Valley. Michael, I know you've been keeping in touch with Hunting Valley as far as how it's progressing. And so far, it's gone well over there. So it's kind of nice that they're ahead of us. So there were some risks around Ohio Gig. You know, they're relatively new, smaller provider, less financial size, potential risk of sales. So I think in the agreement, you'll find that we work to mitigate those risks. So again, the recommendation of Reed, as well as what was approved by council, is that we move forward with negotiating a definitive agreement with Ohio Gig. And then we've been represented by Greg Dunn of the Taft firm, who negotiated the Hunting Valley agreement, and also our own counsel, Todd Hunt. So just to go through the benefits for Gates Mills of Ohio Gig. It's an underground build. It's high resiliency, aerial only where obstructions exist. Deployment is to the entire community of Gates Mills. That was, you know, really important to us. Providers have already come in and picked off easy to access homes. And of course, our concern was that we want everyone in Gates Mills to have access. 30-month project period, that's the construction period, could be adjusted, you know, depending on construction variables. We've got negotiated community-sponsored discounted pricing, and I'll talk about that a little later on in the slides. Connectivity to Gates Mills community sites for a 25-year prepaid service. So it's a guaranteed service with no price increase for the 25 years. An 84-month rate lock guarantee for residents and businesses who commit during the project period. There's no charge for service drop installation to the home, regardless of distance. We have some long driveways in Gates Mills. As long as those individuals signed up during the first 15 months. That could be extended kind of depending on additional driveways there, but there could be a charge if your driveway is longer than 450 feet. Although, as I recall, Michael, the charge was pretty reasonable, even if they were going to charge.
Yes,
Like-
they proposed I thought, a very reasonable charge. I'm not sure whether that got lost along the way or whether that's still part of the agreement.
I think that's,
But if we could
it's not
capture it,
in
we
the
should.
agreement, but they did, you know, they did propose or suggest that it's pretty reasonable.
In the agreement too, I think it says that for homes less than 450 feet, the free drop extends for 7 years. what it
Yeah, free drop is only for the first 15 months.
That's not what it says.
Okay, if it's not correct, we should take a look at that in the
Okay.
agreement. We've gone through a couple different drafts. And it got a little complicated around the drop issue. And what they were proposing got really complicated. So we tried to go a little simpler so that residents would understand. So David, if you see that, that'd be helpful. Let me know, make sure we got that correct.
Right.
And then,
Right.
One time we had a calculation, we had to go out, measure each one, average it, put up the cumulative driveway,
Sure.
632 feet and so on. So they essentially said,
Simplify.
within the first 20 months or whatever it
50.
is, there's no drop charge no matter how long. it goes.
Hmm.
Instead of theirs to get lined up during the period.
One thing
Still
that's,
got a $450, so.
excuse me, sorry. One thing that appears to have disappeared some time ago, I remember they were talking about higher rates or higher charges for people with big houses over 4,000 square feet. Do you remember that?
yeah, so what
Whatever it was, yeah, is that still part of this agreement or not?
we were looking, they wanted to look at our home sizes in Gates Mills, because for larger homes,
Okay.
residents do need an extender. That gives them additional revenue. So our larger square footage, and Janet, I forgot what the number was, our average square footage, but it was
About 3,500, I think.
3,500.
Something.
Okay.
So you'd need an extender, so that's more revenue for them, which again helps them with their pricing.
And more cost to the homeowner.
Right, the individual who's got the large home, yeah, has to buy the extender, but yeah, that's true with most internet services. But it helps on the
Fair enough.
monthly pricing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then significantly improve speeds, down and up, as you can see. So, additional items to note that are important, I think, and Michael, you pointed this out, that we should make it clear, that the subscriptions are optional. It's not required. Spectrum will still be here. AT&T is got a few homes in the area. Probably will help market pricing. And then also that Ohio Gig has taken all the subscription risks. So there's no guarantee of an uptake rate in the service agreement. Okay, so just any questions so far on where we are, advantages of
In the
Ohio
back of
Gig?
my head, there's a question that you probably might get to,
Mhm.
and that is, will residents be expected to sign a contract of some duration with Sugar Valley
Yes.
Gig?
Yes, they will. We've asked for a copy of that, so that we can see it. And Ohio Gig will be coming in and having meetings with residents
Okay.
to
What's
go
the
through
duration
that.
of that commitment that that residents have to make?
I'm trying to remember Markel, do you remember what the duration is of the commitment?
I do not.
Yeah,
7 years.
I think it's 7 years.
Price, 7-year contract.
Yeah.
I think it must be a 7-year. Yeah, that must be right. Yeah.
7 years. Thank you.
So key provisions of the agreement, Chagrin Valley, let's see, did we miss a slide? There we go. Yeah. Okay, so we started with the term sheet that was based on their agreement with Honey Valley. We conducted due diligence on Ohio Gig, including some financial due diligence. And then we negotiated terms in the agreement, including pricing, to manage risk, because Gates Mills is different from Hunting Valley. So we started that as a base and then frankly added to it. Term of the agreement is 25 years. Coverage is all household and businesses within Gates Mills Village. The provider entity is Chagrin Valley Gig LLC, which is a subsidiary of Ohio Gig. And that is the entity that Hunting Valley contracted with, and they intend to contract with several other potential clients or customers in villages in the area. So CVG will design, construct, and build. It's a high-quality architecture standard at their cost. So Gates Mills has the right to approve initial planning, final engineering design of the network prior to construction. They are to develop a critical path method schedule. They are to meet monthly with us to report progress and delays. They will use their best efforts to build underground first. We asked and they agreed that they will discuss with us any instances where they cannot go underground. We also asked for extensive provisions regarding protection of property, paving, and also paving, sidewalk, landscaping. They will reseed areas. They said most of the landscape type disruption is when they go to the home, and that will be part of the agreement with the homeowner. But they assured us that they, are very careful and will consult with the homeowner. So targeted 30-month completion from start to finish of construction. So services, high-speed broadband, administrative services. They have a centralized network operations center operated 24/7, located in Ohio. And this is all in the agreement. And then our responsibilities are to prepay the broadband services to 11 Gates Mills buildings for 25-year term. So it's a prepayment once service has been commenced of $455,000. It's upgradable at our option, and the rate's guaranteed for a 25-year term. So they've also requested a right of first refusal to either lease or own the storage building that's down on Chagrin River Road, the small brick building that's currently being used for storage that at one point housed, I think, some AT&T connection. What do we call it? The telephone exchange. And there's also some other in-kind services that Gates Mills is providing, connecting them with the water department. Mike, you can move to the next slide. Allowing them to attach fiber to the pedestrian bridge, working with the county engineers so they have access to the River Road Bridge. So some items like that make their construction project less expensive and easier, and also comes back to us in terms of lower rates for subscribers. Oh, so Mike, you can go back to the rates. So currently, this is the rates, the pricing commitment that will be in effect for the project period. So again, individuals who are households who sign up during that time frame. Looks like I have a misspelling up there. I'll fix that.
Can you help me with MRC and CSD?
Sure. So MRC would be the rate that they would be charging based on kind of the per mile construction cost. So basically their cost, and then it's less kind of the way they do their pricing. Their internal model is that they gave us credits for the in-kind items that I listed that reduces their construction cost and their upfront cost, as well as the prepayment also reduces their cost of capital. So that then comes back to Gates Mills in terms of lower rates for us as well as for residents.
Okay, so that's not a rack rate. That's already a discounted rate.
It's
That's on.
discounted.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what we're saying is these prices on the right are dependent on our fee paying $450,000, $455,000. My rate right now with Spectrum for my internet only, as far as I can tell, the bills aren't easy to read, is $90. So I figure I've not got a spouse and kids. I'm a retired couple and, okay, so I'd be paying $62 for this compared to my 90.
Right,
Okay,
for 7 years, if you sign up.
70.
Yeah, they've, I asked the question, well, we all asked the question, right? Is this competitive? And they said, yes. And they not only feel that it's competitive, but it's also more reliable and it's got much higher speed.
Yeah, sure.
Speed.
And potential for expansion and all that stuff is obviously.
So it's dependent on the 455, but it's also dependent on us providing these various in-kind services.
Yeah, well, I don't know what they are, so.
Well, there's about half a dozen of them, and that'll be coming up on the group to the right here to help us put those in place.
As long as they've been priced properly, I've got no problem with that.
I'm saying that's, we worked to
Okay.
get the price down to be, as affordable to the residents as you can. So helping them carry the cable, under the grid, hooking up city water, finding a place to park all the vehicles, helping with space when they need space. Frankly, giving them a right of first refusal on buying the building for 40 years was worth something because it was a telecommunications building. So, there's a lot of things there that all go into, it's not just one thing is what I'm trying to say.
No.
So a combination of those in-kind services and the prepayment got us to those rates.
So the agreement does also include a most favored nations clause. David, you pointed out that there's 2 clauses in there. And I think we need to take a look and make sure they're not in conflict. They're probably redundant to each other. Because of this pricing convention that they use, which is this in-kind way of determining their cost of capital and their ultimate construction cost. It's going to be different for different villages or cities. So they, they're guaranteeing rates for the first 7 years. After that, we definitely want a most favored nations clause. And I think both actually clauses that are in there do that because one refers to non-promotional, which is the 7 years. So, but we need to work through, as I said, it's still in draft form. There's still some tweaks. So thanks for highlighting that. I passed that comment along to legal counsel. Installation.
Since all these communities will start with a different price delivered to the consumer, right? Because they will have different in-kind contributions.
Well, different construction costs.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there'll be a difference in price. So
Mhm.
if one goes up, do they go up the same amount or do they go up to the same level? Is it most favored nations retains differentials between prices or does it take them to the same price? I would suspect it's not the second.
Yeah, it should be the clause is written so it should be the same for everyone who you should get the best price of anyone in your same tier after non-promotional rates. I'm sorry, after promotional rates.
Need to understand that. Carry on. Thank you.
Again, we've still, if we have to drill down in some of this even more, they'll be here. OHALGIB will be here next week, and we should definitely do that. Make sure we completely understand everything. Again, installation charges, that's the drop to the home, none for commitments during the first 15 months. And then after that, they may charge for drops longer than 450 feet. So there's some other provisions there is a right to use agreement. This gives Gates Mills the right to use and operate the fiber to our emergency equipment in the event they cannot operate due to bankruptcy, abandonment, similar issues. It is attached as an exhibit to the agreement, the service agreement. It's fairly complicated. And one of the things, it's unlikely that this will occur, but it's a very good backstop for us in the unlikely event that it does occur. We can take over and operate the fiber. So it's attached as an exhibit. We got it at the end of last week. I think we still need to make sure we really understand our obligations under that agreement. But overall, it's a plus for us because it's a good contingency plan.
Why would that just be limited to emergency equipment? Why wouldn't it be everything?
I think it just goes to the one tower. Do we have, that's something that we can talk to them about. Do we need it? Do we want to operate a fiber, the fiber to all buildings? And it has to do with the connection that they use with a company called Everstream. So that's what was proposed. We could certainly look at expanding it, if it's worth the effort.
Maybe all the Gates Mills village facilities, not just the Gates Mills emergency. The goal was that the community house,
Okay.
the village hall, anything that's the 11 village facilities are connected. And then we connect those to the cell tower which connects there. So the word emergency equipment there may or may not be the right word.
Okay, I might have used the wrong, I was struggling with how to describe it concisely, and maybe that's, not, yeah. But the agreement needs some additional work. Financial protections, we got a representation that they have the financial capacity to perform their obligations. We have the right to audit their financials at any time during our 25-year term of prepaid services, and includes insurance responsibility and indemnification provisions as well.
I'm still concerned a little bit about the relationship between CV Gig and Ohio Gig. Are CVG's financials dependent in any way on guarantees and support from Ohio Gig? Are we dealing here with the real entity, or is it a subsidiary, so to speak, of a bigger thing who has more money than they do? I don't understand how bankruptcy of an associate company like this might work. That's my concern.
So I actually have the org chart of the entire group. I chose not to put it up because we need Ohio Gig to talk about all the other different entities that aren't related to us, but the funds that they have raised to fund the initiative sit at the top. And Ohio.
At Ohio Gig, you mean?
Right. And CV Gig is a participant in those funds, and they have indicated that they have set aside 10 million for us, Hunting Valley, and one other city. Yeah, so they've allocated 10 million to these projects.
I think the question he's trying to ask is, if we had a claim of some kind, can we go against the parent, or can we only go to CVG and what their assets are? I guess it's only CVG. I don't know.
Well, the agreements is with CV Gig, and actually, I have asked the attorney that question: shouldn't we have Ohio Gig sign as well? And I don't think I have an answer on that yet, but I think it would be a good idea.
So Laurie, in the right to use agreement, what about the services to residents in case of bankruptcy, abandonment, or similar?
So I think we ought to ask that question again to them next week. What they have told us is that um, Everstream will still be operating and be able to run the system. Um,
They run it for anybody who pays them, right?
But we wouldn't be stepping in to run that system. I mean, it really sounds to me that like this is very low probability,
Mhm.
but high impact, I guess,
Sure.
if you have the problem. So again, it sounds like, Mayor, you understand this maybe more than than I do. I still feel like we got a little work with them to understand it a little better, and we'll try and do that in the next month.
One other question, Lori, if for some reason they go belly up for whatever reason, and let's say they've already constructed their middle mile or their loop or a significant portion of it, do we have some kind of a claim on that where we can cause some other player to come in and finish the job they started?
We don't. I mean, we don't. We have a right for the services, so, we certainly have legal claims that we could make. What Reed Consulting and Ohio Gig has told us is that someone else will come in. I mean, they'll sell it, someone else will come in, because once it's paid for, it's an annuity. I mean, it's really,
It's a money machine.
Yeah, but
it's
if
right.
we- instead
Right.
of going against Ohio Gig or CVG corporate entity, if we actually collateralize the agreement with the asset itself, that might be a smart move, because that would give us, put us in a very strong position if we had to deal with some subsequent guy coming down the road.
I don't think they're going to let us collateralize, right? I mean, they're paying for it, they're taking all the risk, all the subscription risk.
They're not,
mean,
I don't think they are. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to post the slide deck so residents can take a look at it, ask questions. And then Ohio Gig will be here at the next meeting, as well as, and it may be by Zoom, Greg Dunn from the TAF firm, who again did the Hunting Valley and worked on this agreement. And then I think the last slide, yeah, I just wanted to give credit to the initial committee who did the initial investigating, and then the current committee. We had just some really excellent resources on that committee that provided great input and thinking into this pretty complex arrangement. And then Scott, I know you have some questions.
And I made some notes as I reviewed
Okay.
these, and I don't want to get too far in detail, because this is really, there's two components. There's a price component and there's a quality component. Quality, we're going to get higher speeds and more reliable system, which is definitely important. I mean, one of the questions that I had is, I was just looking at a 25-year agreement, and it's at a minimum of 1 gigabyte per second. I mean, over 25 years, that's a pretty long time. And I know 25 years ago, the standard, like a hotshot connection was 127 kilobytes per second. I did see in the IRU, there was some talk about maintenance and repair, but it's only in the IRU that they would essentially upgrade to the then customary standard. I mean, should we maybe have something in here that says, if in 12 years, 1 gigabyte per second is slow compared to what's out there, should we say that they should look at upgrading the speeds? I mean, it looks like there's capability, because it gives the right to go up to 10 gigabytes per second.
Yeah.
So that was just something that I saw that I thought maybe we should look at. The other thing is, Exhibit B didn't, at least my read, didn't include Town Hall. It has every other building, but it doesn't have Town Hall on Exhibit B, the prepayment of services. And I don't know whether that's intentional or
Oh, it should be
No, it's not intentional.
Right.
every building.
At one time, we had 13 locations. Now it's down to 11. We may have either dropped or combined something. We'll check on that.
Right, that was, and then, on the right of first refusal, maybe we ought to have in there that the village then, if they ever decide not to use that building for the provision of these services, that the village ought to have a right of first refusal to buy it back. If they,
Abandon it or they want to sell it?
right, or in the
Those sort of
eventuality that they move on, or they don't need it anymore,
If they
becomes
do
access for
exercise the
them,
right.
then maybe we ought to have the right to get it back.
Yeah, we can ask them that. As far as the upgrade, they've said that, hey, we're gonna do upgrades, where needed. They haven't committed to it.
Right.
We can see if they'll commit to it.
I mean, competitive pressure would,
Yeah.
would
competitive
cause them to
pressure,
want to
right.
do it, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it ought to just say that, they will when they can, or up to standard, or some language in there.
So the way we laid this out for you all about a month ago, my suggestion was that we have a first reading at the January meeting, which is this, and I appreciate all the time you guys have put into this evening, that we'd have a second reading in the month of February at the council meeting, at which we would answer questions that you've raised today that we can't answer, things that we'll take back, and that we would plan to have Greg Dunn from Taft Centennius on the phone or in person, and have Ohio CVG gig here as well to answer those questions again that we may want to pose to them. That we would then, after that second reading, we would have a town hall meeting so that we could inform our residents of what we're planning on doing. And that we would, and I have some dates and when we can do that between February 18th and March 18th. And then at the March council meeting, we would have a third reading. And if council chose to act, then fine, or chose to act sooner, or wants more information. So that's kind of the plan that we're on, which is first reading today. We'll arrange for the second, we'll arrange for the individuals to be here at the second reading gig in Taft, our lawyer and Gigs. And if there's any questions that you have that you haven't given to us, shoot them over. We'll collect them all, get them off to people ahead of time, answer as many as we can ahead of time, or at least bring the answers to the meeting. But we'll have the same kind of conversation at the next meeting. The town hall, I've asked Mike for availability of this building on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. He's given me 7 dates that could work. We'll shoot these off to all of you, and we'll also check with Greg Dunn and with Tim Burlesman from GIG and see which dates are available. We're thinking probably 5 o'clock, 5:30 like we do now, after work for some people, publicize it on the website and the pink sheet so people could be here for the town hall and ask questions. Is that still an okay process for everybody?
Can I just ask my chicken and egg question? Hunting Valley must have solved this problem. I haven't. And that is that pricing depends on penetration. Penetration depends on pricing. How do you break that circle? I mean, what comes first? Is it a price that's offered to residents? And if they don't take it up, CV Gigs say, well, we're not doing it at that penetration. I don't know how that works. Hunting Valley must have dealt with that question. It's a very important question in my view.
Well, David, I thought that's the one thing that they're taking the subscription risk.
They are.
Right.
They are.
Except for the fact that the $455,000 is reflective of the costs that it would take to serve the village facilities, undiscounted. And if I prepay for something, I expect to get a discount. I pay my insurance for my house once a year, not every 6 months, because I get it cheaper. And I think if you're putting up prepayment, it should be discounted at some rate from the face value of what you expect to receive.
Well, 2 points to that. Number one. 2 points to that. Number one, we are getting more than just the service. as I said before, there were a lot of things that went into getting to these numbers, including contributions in kind, et cetera. And, for example, we have the right to upgrade our service at no additional cost. So, we're probably not an $80 entity. We're probably a $150 entity, whatever the second tier is. So, I see it to a certain degree, David. I understand that the time value of money question, and I sent you an answer back yesterday, which I know you raised the other day. There is also a 25-year price lock, so there's no rate increase for us. We've got the same rate now at $84 that we're going to have in the year 2050. So, the discount, if you were to probably do this, you'd inflate the price of the service and then discount it back. I don't know if you'd end up at the same number or not.
Well, what we're getting is free service, right? I mean, we're not going to be, there's going to be no invoices changing hands.
Well,
It'll be
that's
free.
correct.
Right, so
We're getting prepaid
you have
service.
to be clear in your own mind what price you're assuming in order to judge whether that $455,000 is
Right.
appropriate or not.
So I took the 455, you divide it by the 11 locations, you divide by 25 years, divide by numbers per month. It comes out that we're about if we were to go out and buy the service on that rate card, okay, we're about, I think, $120.
Yeah, I figured the same number.
Something, I don't have it with me, but something of that range. We're not an $84, we're not 150. But we're not going to be that. We're going to require a higher level of service given what the village is running here and the need that we have for the reliability and so on. So it's a fair question. We could play with some numbers and put them out there. I don't have a problem doing that. I think your question the other day was a good question.
Well, Steve, because I know that I'm paying $139.99 for the Spectrum Business at a much lesser speeds a month. That's currently what it is right now. So for the business
Right.
access, so.
I think those are all great questions for us to ask Tim next month. How did, Yeah.
Yeah, just two questions. So the 455 is due not at contract signing.
No,
It's after everything's been built out.
It's
only to the village village
Turn it on.
facilities.
Okay, so the risk to the village, let's say we have another 2008 or something happens and they go belly up and you've got we've cut a check to somebody and there's a bunch of cable in the ground, nothing's been done. So it really isn't a risk to the village from a construction standpoint. They're taking all that. So
That's
the,
fine.
the money isn't due until the switch gets flipped and then service gets prepaid. And I assume the same thing works for residents. My first instinct is 7 years seems like a long time. A lot of people may not, I may not be here in 7 years. I may not be living in a house in 7 years. And so to the extent that there are more options available to residents that, than less, I think that would be good in terms of,
It certainly
some
adds.
people would say, hey,
Yeah.
listen, I'll pay a little bit extra and I'll pay to have it installed. To David's point, you run the numbers on that and just like a cell phone plan.
Ohio CVG told us the other day, I think Laura, you and I were on the phone together. I don't know if Michael was on there, but we asked the question about how does the rate stay with the house or stay with the person?
Yeah.
And essentially they said they'll keep the rate with the house.
Okay,
So if you're here for 3 years and you
Still-
decide to move or you relocate or you retire or you transfer, and that's an attractive rate, that rate will stay with the house.
okay.
The fundamental assumption in their model, Craig, is 65% uptake of residents. So if they get 65, or as long as they think they're going to get to 65, we're okay. If for some reason the early returns show that's going to be a problem, then I think it's a new ballgame and they'll come back and probably with a different set of pricing.
That's my chicken and egg problem.
Well, but that's not what they've said is that that they actually, if everyone signed up and they had, they knew they had a lot of subscribers, they could finish the construction pretty quickly, but they can extend the construction period if they're not getting the subscriber rate. And eventually they think the market will push people to be, a subscriber. And if what you all are telling me about what you're paying, it sounds like it's a little bit of a no-brainer.
I
At
don't
least
think,
for,
I think to Scott's point, I don't think selling this on price is the right answer. If I were in CV Giggs' place, I'd be selling it entirely on security, speed, and potential down the road. And I think a lot of people in the village will look at it and say, the price is not relevant. what I'm paying for here is security, weather security, trees falling down and all that. Speed, a businessman will say, I don't know how much speed I'm gonna need, but I'm getting it. And third, is, there's always three.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I don't think $10 or $20 is gonna influence many people. In a bill, in my monthly bill for Spectrum is $300.
me too. I know.
And that, the biggest chunk of that isn't gonna change because of this.
Well, that's true, David, of course, but I imagine that Spectrum and AT&T will fight back.
They
I don't
probably
think they're
will.
just gonna roll over.
Mhm.
I think they'll probably devise some
Probably
kind of
will.
incentive to keep their own residents. So even the people who stick with their current supplier will probably benefit from having CVG come in.
Except they'll still have aerial delivery.
Yeah,
That's
they,
correct.
This is
They
a-
won't get the
probably will.
high speed, they won't get the reliability, but they'll still benefit price-wise.
Yes, yes.
so to your point, it's, you know, you'd be paying for this, for security, which is important when,
Especially
Yeah.
with all these storms. we've
right,
had.
right.
Yeah.
So, and I think, you know, people do put a high value on that.
Okay,
Especially
is
as
there
well.
anything else on this topic? Are we happy with any of the questions?
And Steve, so the reason why we would put it on first reading now is that assuming that by third reading, everyone's in agreement and we can pass it, is that there is a somewhat of a timing issue with getting them started.
In the spring.
Well, there's a risk that, I guess, they're negotiating with surrounding communities. The risk if we lollygag for too long is the equipment after they finish Hunting Valley goes to Kirtland Hills or Kirtland or something like that, and that pushes us further out in time. You know, it's not the end of the world, but
But that would be, that is the reason why we would put something on first reading.
correct.
That we're still working on a little bit is timing wise. So that's.
Right.
And I think that's a legitimate reason. I just want to make sure that it's clear when people hear, well, it's a draft and we've got to talk about this, that, or the other thing, that we're not acting by putting on first reading for no reason at all, or simply to roll over.
No, it's as you can tell, it's a well-done draft. It's, you
Right.
know, but for these 5 or 6 questions, to narrow down. And frankly, we want to give time to you all to think about it and time to have a town hall.
Yeah, it actually benefits the residents and CB gig to have the town hall earlier rather than later, because everybody will get feedback on how residents react.
Yep.
And Todd did opine that that the tweaks are not material, and so that it was fine to put it out on first reading.
Okay, can I consider, we move on to the next topic? Okay, can I ask this of council? Do you mind if we excuse the fellows that are sitting along the window there who've been sitting there for 2 hours and I don't think we'll have much question for them? Is that all right with everybody? Okay, see you all tomorrow. Thank you, guys. Yeah, keep the roads clean. Thank you, Dave. What's that?
Okay.
Okay, you're sitting in the wrong chair and you got a computer on. Can't make you a guy tonight. Council matters, number 21. Okay, these are just a few, other items. Mike Press, last meeting commented that there were some, items going on in Pepper Pike and Hunting Valley that we might be interested in knowing about. I think Pepper Pike had a charter review, group, and Hunting Valley had done something with their Zoom meetings. Mike agreed to follow up with those and brief us, and so. can I
Okay,
turn the
I'll
floor over?
try to keep this simple. I mean, charter amendments do seem to be popular at the moment. The first one that you may or may not know about is in November at the ballot, Hunting Valley actually voted on and passed a charter amendment to allow electronic meetings. Now, interestingly, Pepper Pike has done the same, but Pepper Pike didn't think it required a charter amendment. They thought they could do it by ordinance. But both those communities have moved in the direction of allowing electronic meetings. And I think that's probably something we should give some thought to. I wouldn't want to go to all electronic meetings. I think it would be the exception rather than the rule. But for example, if Ed were able to have Zoomed in tonight, which was the original intention, if we passed either an ordinance or a charter amendment, then you'd be able to vote as well. So I think it's something that does deserve some consideration, and I would be for it, but I would also be for having some rules to make sure we don't abuse the privilege, and that the vast majority of our meetings are just like they are today. So that's number one. That's the easy one. Now,
Before we jump to that, any initial reaction, or Lisa, any comment from you on what you see other municipalities doing in terms of electronic meetings?
It's definitely an option.
Well, I would agree with Michael that it should be the exception. I mean, someone's out or something.
it might make it possible for us to attract council members who are sunbirds, for example.
Snowbirds, you mean?
If we said, we'll give you, we'll let you tune in for 2 meetings, but you got to attend the rest or something like that. I don't know. It's something worth thinking about.
So I've always been under the impression that they weren't allowed by the state. So obviously, Lisa, that's not.
Well, that was my understanding too. What I had heard before, that they were not allowed at all, and then the state decided during COVID
COVID, yeah, except.
that they would allow it.
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
an
but I thought
exception basis.
they reversed that.
They
though,
did.
'cause-
They did. My understanding is that they are allowed, so long as you've got a public notice and an opportunity for the public to participate.
But you think about somebody like Lori, who's out in Park City a lot, and she comes back for every meeting, and that's kind of
But
a hardship,
Lisa,
I think.
To the
You're not
benefit
part of the
reminded
quorum
of-
and you can't vote based on the state law. If you attend via Zoom meetings, that's what Todd said,
The
Oh,
idea,
for your council member,
or for a committee.
right?
Yeah,
Well-
you're not part of the quorum right now and you cannot vote. You can meet that way, but you're not part of the quorum and you can't
well,
vote.
I think we ought to look at what Hunting Valley and Pepper Pike have
They
done.
did charter amendments to that, is what you're saying, and an
Well,
ordinance.
No, Hunting Valley,
Right, and an
their law
ordinance in
director
Pepper
said-
Pike.
will be safer if we have a charter amendment than if we do it by
Right.
ordinance.
But I think Todd is against it.
Pepper Pike looked at it,
Oh.
their law director advised that they don't need a charter amendment, they can do it by ordinance. I don't know who's right. I'll leave it to Todd and Lisa to figure that one out.
Welcome to the 21st century.
Is this something we want to have Todd look at?
Yeah.
I will bring it up to Todd.
And
I'll
maybe
say
talk
that
to
that
Hunting
did come
Valley.
up.
I do remember during COVID,
Hunting Valley.
it's very
Right.
hard to have public interaction if you're meeting via Zoom,
Yes.
because you have to have someone monitoring the YouTube live stream.
Yeah, I
So-
think it should be the exception.
Businesses
I think
do it
it's
all the time.
better that we're in a room.
I'm just
and
saying how it was here during
People are
COVID.
in the room and we can interact. I mean, it'd be good to have an exception for
Well,
when
I
it's unavoidable.
I think Todd should give us an opinion, and then we can go from there, because this is really news, to me at least. 'cause
I agree.
thought it
Next
was
step is to get some
absolutely.
legal advice on what is the art of the possible.
And what are the risks?
Yeah, and what, if any, are the risks? All right, so on to the more interesting part, which is what's the other things that are going on in Pepper Pike. There's, as you may know, there's been some tension in Pepper Pike between the mayor and the council. Okay? In April of '24, the council passed a resolution to set up a charter review commission made up of citizens, qualified residents. And indeed, they set up a commission with 9 residents. Now, shortly thereafter, the mayor vetoed that ordinance. So the next thing that happened down the road was that the council unanimously overrode the mayor's veto. And indeed, the Charter Review Commission went into business and has held 15 meetings. They had a deadline of something mid to late December, which they met. They have turned a report over to council, and it's, I believe, on second reading at the moment. And council is having special meetings, so they don't have to take 2 months to get through it. So, well, what did they do? They did a lot of things, but there's 2 things that I think are the most important. First of all, has to do with P&Z. The way that it was organized in Pepper Pike up until now and what exists currently is P&Z is chaired by the mayor, and it consists, he is allowed to appoint 3 people at his sole discretion. And all the zoning decisions are made by that body. So what the report recommends is they go with a model that's going to sound very familiar to us, because the model we use, where a councilman chairs P&Z, and council and the mayor jointly agree on who will make up the rest of P&Z. The only real difference is that we have 2 councilmen on our P&Z, and in the Pepper Pike model that's being proposed, they only have 1. The other thing they did on P&Z, and this ties into something we've been talking about, is they decided that all significant zoning changes would go to the ballot. So they did the kind of a charter amendment, or they're trying to do the kind of a charter amendment that we're talking about on zoning. Okay, so that's the P&Z piece. Now, the second piece has to do with balance of power. Under the current system in Pepper Pike, the mayor is president of council and has a casting vote. Under the proposed system, they'll set up a president of council who will run council. The mayor will continue to come to council meetings, but he will not have a vote, and he will not, he will set the agenda. The agenda will be set by the president of council. According to the commission, that is the predominant method of doing local governance in Cuyahoga County.
Does he
I
have
don't know whether,
does he or she have a tiebreaker vote?
I don't know whether he's got a
That's
tiebreaker
what
vote or not.
exists.
He might have a tie-breaking
Yeah,
vote.
that's what exists.
Okay. But that's the direction they're heading. Mayor didn't like it. They're on second or third reading right now. They intend to go to the ballot in May of 25. That's why they're having the accelerated reading. And the reason they're shooting for May of 25, 2 reasons. Number one, they don't want to be doing this while they have new councilmen running for council, because I think that'll confuse the issue. And secondly, they have a ballot issue for a recreational levy that's up anyway. So they're not having to do a special election. They're just coattailing on something that is already going. So that's the balance of power. I think it'd be interesting to look and see if indeed this is the predominant model in Cuyahoga County. I can't verify that. I know that's what Chagrin Falls does. I don't know what most of the other municipalities in Cuyahoga County do.
Can I add to that, Mayor? I think the way it works in Hunting Valley now as a practical matter is that they have a president of council who is a council person, not the mayor. And the president of council runs all their council meetings. That's the way they do it. Their charter says different. Their charter says the mayor is still the president of council. So they've taken to having a different way of running things month to month, different than their charter would suggest. That's my reading of it. Experts would maybe read it differently, but it's pretty clear to me. And Nancy Heinen, who we both know very well, is the president of council and is a council person.
Was up till December 31st. Now that somebody knew Rick somebody,
Okay, but the mayor, same mayor, he just sits.
Bruce
on the side.
Maybeck, yeah.
Bruce Maybeck, he's still the mayor, but does
Correct.
not run the council meetings.
that's right.
And we
So
can-
they're looking for the idea is you get a check and balance like you have at the state level and like you have at the federal level. That's the principle. Versus consolidating a lot of power in the executive branch.
Yeah, and that's always what you look for, right? Because you never know what could get out of balance otherwise or where.
Sure.
So a balance. But,
Found-
and
found-
it may be, David, that the mayor's delegated to Nancy. I don't know.
Maybe, but you read the website and it will be,
Yeah.
think that Nancy Heinen is running the show. So we need expert eyes.
Well, it works well with either model as long as everything is working well. If things
Till it's
quit
not.
working well, then you wish you had the check and balance.
Well, which
And
is right, which is. why
God
you
help
always
us if
want
that
the
ever
balance.
happens, but
Yeah.
that's why you do it. That's why you would do it.
Because the mayor
So-
of Pike has been there for a long, long time.
So you can think about whether we want to broaden our approach to charter amendment. I wouldn't want, I think it's worth thinking about. I wouldn't want to do anything that gets in the way of going after the zoning charter amendment, which I think is important to get done by November. And I think that before we do it, we need to clean up our zoning before we start chiseling things into stone.
But it sounds like our model follows what you said is the typical Cuyahoga County, which is that the mayor doesn't have a vote.
No, the model in Cuyahoga County is to have a council president that runs the council meeting separate from the mayor,
Which we don't have.
which we do not have.
Although we do have a president of council, in our charter, which happens to be the mayor.
Yeah. Our mayor is our president.
Yeah.
We have the two jobs combined, basically.
The thing about Pepper Pike though, is that it's happening so fast. They just put the commission together in the summer,
Yeah, they start meeting in April, I think,
in April.
and
they're
they
gonna put it
had
on the
15
ballot.
meetings.
It worked
That's
very,
a-
very hard.
Yeah, it's a lot, I mean, it's a lot of change for such a short period of time, but.
And
anyway,
it may or may not pass. We
may or
don't
may
know.
not pass.
It looks like it's going to pass, but yeah, it's only on second reading, so we don't know for sure.
How size-wise, like residence-wise, I wonder what Pepper Pike
I have
is
no idea.
compared to us.
I'm sure there's residents on both sides.
5,000 and we're,
I think there's seven.
what?
I think there's 7,000.
I don't know.
How many people are on
Certainly
council?
bigger than Gates Mills.
Do you know how many people are on their council?
I think they have 7 on council,
Okay.
same as we do.
Same as Monty Valley.
So, thank you. I don't have any to-dos out of this. Are there any to-dos out of this? We've got some to-dos out of the Zoom meeting. This is likely going to just keep us posted.
I'll keep you posted on what happens and between now and May.
Thank you for the updates. Last item listed here, meeting among council members, Councilmember Turner.
Last but not least, I'm going to propose that, that the council members, including the president of council, meet in a special session. And what brought this about for me is reflecting on the past year, on how 2024 has gone. We have a new mayor and we've welcomed one new council member. I think there's a change in the dynamic. The meetings have been a lot more calm this year. And I think part of that is that the mayor's taken on a lot of responsibility himself for setting the agenda and guiding the conversation. And in that way, kind of taking on some of the heat related to some of these issues that we've discussed, and kind of less conflict, less discussion perhaps among the council members directly. So thinking about that, that's a lot of good things that have happened. We've had a good year. There's been a lot accomplished. Meetings have been a lot more calm and pleasant, so to speak. But it still feels to me like like we're not where we should be. That there's still some perhaps lack of trust, lack of transparency, lack of accountability among council members. When I think about this being the last year that this body will work together as a council, well, we don't know what's going to happen next year. There are 4 people up for reelection. I think we have an opportunity to, be discerning about what it is that we want to accomplish together, that we can look back on and be proud of when this year is over. I think that so my intent or interest in having this meeting is not so much about talking about goals in particular, but it's more about how do we support each other to promote our goals and to get the things done that we think are important. For me, there's not been an occasion where council has gotten together informally in a special meeting to really kind of talk through what are the things that we need to do our job. And when using that as thinking of some examples of that, we've talked about setting the agenda, how the agenda gets set and how early we hear about it. Maybe that's something that we decide as a group that could be handled in a different way. And maybe that different way is getting together by phone or by Zoom meeting a couple of weeks before the meeting and just.
Can we do that with sunshine laws?
We could have it, okay, all right, so not a Zoom meeting until we're able to do it. Maybe I guess it would have to be in person, but just to talk about what.
I think it'd have to be one by one.
Yeah.
Would it have to be one by one, unless we got together in person? Or not?
Some municipalities
If we
have.
get together in person, then it would have to be.
Be a meeting. It could be a
Public-
special meeting.
posted
It has to be a
and
public
open.
meeting.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Some
that,
municipalities have what they call a working session in between the regular council meetings.
It's still a meeting.
Yeah, it's a meeting, it's public, everybody's there, everybody's listening, but it's where they don't actually do business. They talk about business, they don't do business.
So
That's what Sandra's talking.
that's what I was thinking of, and that's just a suggestion. I talked earlier about, more responsibility for the council member pro tem or the president pro tem. That's maybe something we can talk about. We've talked about things like the zoning changes or like the environmental committee that that don't get that we haven't completed at this point. And again, I think personally that the mayor takes on a lot of responsibility, and there are members of council that could be doing more, having more accountability or responsibility, which means that there's more engagement. I think that the opportunity again, and I would invite people to our home so that we can, and it has to be posted. That's fine if others want to come, but the opportunity in a more informal, a little bit more social setting, where we could still talk about again what it is that we need from each other to do an even better job, would be advantageous. I know there have been a lot of disagreements among council members in the past, but I think that we can move beyond that, and I'm really hopeful that we can come together and again in a little bit more authentic way and address some of these issues. And coming together in an authentic way sometimes means saying, I don't want to do this. Why do we keep talking about it if a majority don't want to talk about it? So it kind of cuts both ways. Speaking up when you're supporting an issue that maybe isn't popular, but also stating your opinion when it's kind of going against the grain. Another thought, and again, this is, I'm just putting some ideas out here to kind of frame the meeting a little bit, but, you know, we've met here in the community house primarily because of COVID, when we were able to get back together again. You know, you put a big U table and a bunch of microphones in front of people, and it really changes the dynamic. We met for years in the, you know, in Village Hall. Is that something, there's no law that says we have to meet here. So would that kind of environment make us a little bit, feel a little bit more informal, a little bit more comfortable? So anyway, my motion or proposal is that we have a special council meeting. We can decide where, but again, we talk about the dynamics of us and how we work together and what we need to be even more successful. Comments, thoughts? Scott, I saw you kind of wrinkling your
Oh,
nose when I first started. Where,
No, I mean,
you weren't sure where I was going.
I think we're all getting along. I mean, I think we have different ideas, but I
Yeah.
think the conversation's been very good. But I'm all for it. I think you and I had talked before. I'm all for
Yeah.
having a special council meeting. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fine.
And I did talk with individuals before, and we, to make a long story short, to have a special council meeting, according to Todd, we either need a motion approved by the council, or the mayor sets the special council meeting.
So Sandra, I'm also, you know, in favor always of getting together and working through those things, and we're never always going to agree, right? I mean, that's part of the process. But I think just as long as we kind of define what the outcome of that is, I mean, because we can sit and talk, but, you know, where are we going with it? But yeah, always good to.
I'd be happy to put together an agenda for the meeting.
So Sandra, are you making a motion? I'll second it.
Okay. And the motion is that council, including the president of council, have a special meeting. I'm inviting folks to, I'm offering to host the meeting.
I think you have to have a purpose.
And the purpose is to, purpose is to preview 2025 and collaboration to accomplish preview 2025. And I don't want to put in goals because I don't want to talk specifically about goals. I think that's another meeting. But I don't know.
To facilitate the collaborative process.
Okay.
Working session.
That works.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Yeah. And they, sorry,
Discuss what the purpose is at the meeting?
at the meeting, well, yes, you would be confined to the purpose of your special meeting. So that
You be more articulate on what the purpose is.
you do have to articulate the purpose of the meeting, and you'd have to put that purpose in your public notice so that the public is aware of that purpose. And you cannot go beyond that purpose.
So there really been three things that have been mentioned. One is achievements from last year.
Okay.
One was priorities for the coming year. And the third is, I don't know, the social dynamics of council, or whatever you would like to call that. So we need to capture all three, right? If we're going to talk about all three.
Yes, you would have to actually
Or we could divide it into pieces.
have a notice of each purpose that you will discuss.
And then you need a time and a date. and a place.
Okay, I have to check with council about it,
You may get
about a date,
determined.
but to be determined,
To be
date to be determined. And I like to discuss the collaborative process
Well,
of council.
and I think Michael,
Added.
yeah, what he said
There
was
we
very
go.
good.
Okay.
I can't
The
say
cl-
it right now, but.
Collaborative
Someone needs to
process.
say it right now so we can get it in
All right.
writing.
So I propose a special council meeting to be hosted by the Turners or Sandra Turner to include a discussion about review of 24, outlook for 2025, and and to discuss the collaborative process among council.
Mhm. Yes. I think that's
I'll second. that.
clear.
Date.
So we had a
to be
first,
determined.
first and second, right?
Actually, Craig got there first, I think.
Yeah, but I think that's a little more
Greg got the second.
well-defined motion.
Yeah, that's better.
And
That's good.
So I'll withdraw my second in favor of Scott's second. Just so the record's straight.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes. Thank you, and I'll be in touch with each of you to set up a time and date.
Any other council meeting matters?
One comment, Mr. Mayor. One thing I find peculiar about council is we don't seem to review and approve the budget. We approve the appropriation of the money, but we never actually have a presentation on what's in the budget and why, and, have a chance to interrogate it. I mean, if you're on the Budget and Finance Committee, you have that chance, but if you're not, you kind of get left out. Is there a reason that we can't have a session on, where we review the budget and approve it?
I don't see any reason why you couldn't have a session to review it, improve it. I don't know. That's something we could talk about. I think the practice that we've always followed is to have that done by the Budget and Finance Committee. Both they approve the budget and then recommend it, which does happen to council, and council's only required action is to approve the expenditures and the appropriations. I have no problem, though, if we want to schedule it, we can present it at the next meeting or a March meeting and review with you the budget. I don't think we need the approval, but I'm happy to review it.
Okay. Thank you.
That's something that people want to see. Frankly, most people come to the Budget and Finance Committee meeting because they're usually 3 meetings and they're pretty hour-full packed meetings. They walk out pretty much knowing what the story is. I'm not sure anybody in this room has not been at that meeting. So why don't we do this? Let's put, I'll put on the agenda for February meeting, Janet, that we'll present for council's review the 2025 budget. Okay. Any comments from the audience? Mr. Spear, thank you for waiting.
Fine. I don't want to ruin the sweet buzz of the council meeting to talk about things, but I have a couple of things. A charter amendment to have the meetings online, Snowbird Council from wherever, not for these 24 chairs. Sure, you're going to have an idea that sometimes we'll do it and sometimes we won't. You know when you'll want to do it online? When the chicken people are coming in, okay? When there's lined up 24 chicken people and they're mad. That's when you want to be here. But your inclination will be to not be here. So that's the first thing. The second thing is beautiful presentation, fabulous presentation on broadband. But we can't call it a reading if there's nothing to read. It's a listening. Very nice, informative listening. I came here thinking I would love to see the contract because I'm fascinated about how we could put up the money for prepaid services for 25 years. I want to know from the Treasury Committee, because we're going to take $425,000 and make 5% a year. I want to know how that all prices. But but there's no, so I'm not asking for it because it doesn't exist yet. So I,
Chuck, it does exist. It's online and you
It's
can
online,
request,
and
you
you
can
can
request,
but there's nothing that we can authorize you to sign, right? Because it's not done. I mean, this thing says we authorize you to sign 3 agreements.
right,
but
and I
there
think
are
what
no-
we've got from council, from legal counsel is that this agreement is sufficiently detailed and materially complete that it would be legitimate to put it on a first reading. We
All
can
right,
give you a
okay,
draft with a lot of
that's-
holes.
I think I'm troubled by it, but you.
Well, no,
made
no,
the
no, you shouldn't be.
decision,
And
it's been
it's
60
available.
years since I was in law school, so you never want to listen to me on these,
It's
honestly.
online, available to anybody that wants it, or,
I thought it was only available on request.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I looked for it.
okay, let's just, let,
Okay, well.
normally we put all the stuff on. We got the final agreement on Friday at about 4 o'clock. The
Okay,
council packages went out about Friday at 4:01. We generally put all the stuff in the council packages, which, by the way, we put more in the council packages than we have to. And we usually post it all online at the same time. We could not get all that done by 4 o'clock. So we sent the packages out with the hard copies to the council people, and we put a note that said, if you want it, call the clerk's office. It's just a matter of trying to get the job done by last Friday at 5.
but.
There's nothing not to
Well,
see in the
well,
contract.
Then my mistake is, I think I've heard a lot of open ends that we don't know yet about. But let me move on because we've taken so much time. You're going to do a questionnaire about the charter amendment. I love that. I think that's just the thing to do. But I want to point out to you that we've done a questionnaire recently, 38 questions. We asked the villagers what they thought, 38 questions, 522 responses. We gave them an open-ended opportunity to write their comments. 1,576 comments. And then we had town hall, we had neighborhood meetings, flip charts. We wrote the comments down, 830 comments. You all have those, I'm pretty sure. Look through them. See when they say, the mayor has too much power, we must take it away from him, or the council has too much power, we must take that away. We have to amend the charter. You'll never find it. You'll never find it. We have surfaced an issue here that's going to rip at the fabric of our community for no particular reason. Maybe they do it differently in Garfield Heights. I don't live in Garfield Heights. I live here. And I love the way it works here. I come to every meeting because I think it's great. The idea that we're going to tear at this with a charter amendment, that even now, today, comes up with a new idea. Hey, snowbirds. So I think you need to be very, very careful about this. That's it. Nice meeting.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. And thanks for coming and thanks for the comments.
Yeah, the other thing I would say, Chuck, the reason I was in favor of putting it on is because, sometimes when we come with an agreement, like it's all done, and then council members or others say, well, I couldn't give any feedback. So, this does give us the opportunity in a complex situation that involves a lot of different stakeholders to at least have we've got enough meat that I think we can have a good conversation. So that's why I personally felt like it was okay.
Okay, if there's no other matters, I just want to thank Lori and the Broadband Committee for all the work, including years ago led by Ann Whitney and others. It's a nice document. It's a good reading. Thanks for all the work you and Michael and others have put into this. And with that, I'll have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That works.
We're doing the consent approach. Thank you, everyone.